What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here. KDA Cup Day 3 just finished. If you guys did not watch it, you missed out on a lot of crazy DFT. A lot of really strong players made it to Day 4. A lot of really strong players didn't make it to Day 4, as is the nature of tournaments like this. Today, we are going to watch a VOD from Appy's from Day 3. This was actually his first game of the entire cup, and it showed off a comp that I am really hyped about, one that I saw success with in my own games. It just looked really strong in my own games, and then I saw other people playing around it, and I thought, man, this comp might just be really strong. Early game, we have a Heartsteel opener potentially with this set. We're going to opt to not hold on to the Seraphine headliner because it would mean that we wouldn't be able to hold on to these Heartsteel units, so it feels a little bit bad, but it's okay. Bruiser Olaf's actually an interesting option here. I feel like I tend to like this option a decent bit just because you can potentially play for Olaf here. But I think Appy's has a different idea in this spot. He sees that he has a tier already. He sees that he has a Seraphine in his shop. He can pick up this Katarina here. And yeah, he is going to pick up the Olaf here. But when we get to Augment here, Stimpack, Silver Veil, and he's going to scout around the lobby, see that there aren't very many Seraphines out. He even gets Iron Assets, which is an incredible augment, but he is just going to take team building here and say, I am hard forcing Seraphine in this spot, which is kind of insane, right? When you think about it for a second. I think this is not a very common comp, but he says, I have one Seraphine, I have all these bruisers, I'm going to be fine just playing this board for now. I'm not going to level because my board's not that strong. I don't want to grief my own econ. I'm going to slam Adapticone, which is another item that I think a lot of people have been relatively low on. Like, a lot of people are really preferring stuff like the Shojin or like the blue buff, but Adapticone actually is, if you look at the stats, a lot better this patch. The reasoning being is that there's a lot of backline access in TFT right now. When you think about this sort of like Karthus plus Viego, you know, this this comp. So when you build Adapticone on your backliners, it gives you tankiness, like tank stats onto, you know, your backline units. It means that your, say, like TF you build it onto, your Karthus that you build it onto can actually end up surviving, you know, maybe a Karthus ult and a Kali ult or something like that. And on someone like Seraphine, it's going to provide you that mana gen and that tankiness. So that actually makes a ton of sense. He's actually going to pivot into the Sentinel board here because he wants to actually be able to make gold here. He's really highly prioritizing making gold here, which is something that, like, is really scary, I think, in my opinion. I think a lot of times when I like really prioritize, oh, and the cat is leaving his they're trying to like get the cat out of his room there. That's why we leave the cam on, and Appy's is locked in here, really trying to play for his 3 loss streak, not even slamming an item here. I think he really wants a loss streak in this spot. Really high priority on Seraphine is mana gen and then healing reduction, usually like a red buff or a Morello. I think Morello is slightly better after the buffs to Morello. So I'd imagine he's going to pick up a Rod off Carousel here, either Rod or Belt. Looks like, yeah, it's just going to be the Rod here to look for Morello. JG doesn't really do too much on Seraphine, so I can't imagine that we're going to slam that. And then the glove can end up being like a TG later, or maybe a Steadfast Heart. But yeah, I mean, he's very rich here, 30 gold. And yeah, just playing this full loss streak style. The only thing that's scary about this full loss streak style, because, you know, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot on this patch, is when you play this full loss streak style, you have to stabilize pretty hard early stage 3, like 3-2, because if you just lose infinite HP, your game is just over. I guess the other nice thing about his spot is because he played a decent board early, he's 87 HP on this 3 loss streak. So even if he gets 5-0'd here, into another 5-0 here, he's still going to be like 70 HP, which is, I mean, it's not amazing from an HP perspective. He definitely would have preferred to kill like a unit here, but it's not the worst. Curious to see what he does here, if he's interested in like selling a cannon making 40. You could even sell both cannons and hold on to just Lilia pair. Or you could just hold on to other units. Really interesting to see what he does here. He's just going to hold on to everything. Yeah, I like this a lot, actually. Because you're only making 1 extra gold by selling these units, but you're losing Lilia pair, you're losing cannon pair, which feels really bad. So yeah, I like this a lot. And yeah, he takes another 4 unit loss, but still 72 is very healthy compared to, you know, what we could be at in a game like this. So yeah, I like this a lot. Still haven't really found a very good headliner on this board yet, but we have the Mordekaiser as well, which is really nice. He can item hold for now. You see, he's still not even putting the Adapticone onto the Seraphine because he knows I don't have items on the Seraphine. The Seraphine's not going to do very much. If I just put Adapticone on frontline, I can just use it to tank. He gets a 5-cost duplicator here, which is like almost a little low roll because you're playing this type of reroll comp, but you definitely won't turn down a duplicator here, and he picks up an Echo. He also has the Lulu, but I don't know if you don't really need to hold that. There we go, though. That's exactly what we want to find. It's that Seraphine. And the other nice thing about holding the Adapticone not on the Seraphine is now you can move it to the headliner, which is exactly what he does here. He gets Steadfast Heart and Morello's from his items, which are absolutely perfect, and he has this Rod open for potential Ionic Spark later. So now we are absolutely in an amazing spot with this Seraphine comp. There's actually Cottontail also playing this Seraphine board for now. We don't have to worry too much because he's definitely not going to play for like a Seraphine 3 with JG Shojin. The items just don't make that much sense. Morello is just so good on Seraphine. It makes her damage stick. Like you do a little bit of damage and then it makes sure they don't heal past it. And also she just spreads it incredibly well. So really, really good item on her. None of these augments look very good. None of these look as very good as well. Worst case, I guess we could take Silver Ticket here, but you probably just reroll Best Friends. It's Uplink, which is a really, really nice pickup as well. Gonna go to level 6 here, and we pick up a Lulu, and we have a ton of pairs in this spot. You could consider rolling here, right? Your Lulu pair, Echo pair, Lilia pair. The reason to not roll here is because he thinks his board is actually just strong enough already, and just wants to maintain as much econ as possible so that he can hit this board. Also really interesting, he rods the Lulu here, so he's thinking of making like a Gwinsu or something like that. Instead of thinking of making a Spark here, I probably definitely would have held this rod. Like, if anything, maybe just slammed it on like Kennen or something, though it's kind of awkward there. But I really want to make Spark in this spot. Gets another duplicator here so you can roll a bit. He rolls a couple of times. Oh my god. And that's just the entire board put together. He was one off Seraphine in that spot with the, or maybe, in any case, he has Seraphine 3 here and Echo 2 and Lulu here. So this is the ideal spot for Seraphine reroll, I would say for sure. Hitting your entire board at 3-3 is definitely a bit high roll, but it's gonna be fun to see what this comp can do from a really high roll spot like this, because I think so few people are actually playing for this comp that oftentimes in spots like this, I mean, you're going to be uncontested Seraphine. We saw that Cottontail had 3 Seraphines, but, you know, maybe he sold out of that, or maybe we just hit through that. It's only 3 at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think this is just a really, really nice comp. Looks like he's just going to go for the tier here for potential mana generation item. Maybe he doesn't prioritize Ionic Spark that highly in this comp because he knows that Seraphine, 1, is not always going to be hitting frontline, and 2, like, maybe he just thinks the damage with Morello's is enough. I guess, like, there are ideas that maybe, like, Static Shiv is better in this comp because you can access backline more with Seraphine, but, like, she's going to hit biggest clump, which oftentimes will be frontline. So it's interesting that he doesn't prio Shred that highly. But yeah, he's even just going to slam the tier on the Gnar as well. I like this a lot as well, because we're probably getting out of this Gnar later. I doubt we're going to play Force Superfan down the road, and the second we find Nico, it's going to come out. So we can just put the tier on Gnar for now, and then later game move it, and it'll spike our board a little bit right now with the Cybernetic Uplink. This is something that I feel like really good players do so much, is play around the units that actually, like item hold the units that actually make sense in spots like this, you know? He has the Gnar, but he knows it's going to come out later, so he can slam the item here. Same reasoning on putting the Adapticone on like a frontline unit instead of the Seraphine, because he was able to move the Adapticone to his Seraphine. Like, it's such a small thing, but like just playing Seraphine on your backline and putting the Adapticone on her would actually have hurt us so much, because we couldn't have put these items onto the headliner Seraphine, or we would have had to sell one of the Seraphines, which, you know, would have been really, really bad. So really smart stuff by Appies to just chill on this board here. And, you know, now he can move items really easily. Picks up an Akali. We are KDA Seraphine. So I think it's we definitely want to play for this 5 KDA board. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that this game isn't high roll, because, like, my god. But I think it's going to be fun to see what this comp can do from a really, really high roll spot, because I think it's pretty sweet. Going to get the Ari and the Akali in here over the Lulu, which I think makes sense. We can, yeah, just move over potential blue buff Ionic. You could also go Gunblade if you don't want to go Ionic. I'm curious what he makes Gunblade here over Ionic. It really doesn't prio Shred very highly, which is interesting. I mean, Gunblade's another fantastic item. I really think I would have prioed Ionic here, but yeah, it's interesting. I guess he just thinks that the comp maybe has enough damage, doesn't really care that much for Shred. And it's not like he's holding another Shred component. Like, he's not making Shred to make the Gunblade. I like Bulk a lot in a spot like this. If you didn't have Morello, you could go Blistering Strikes, but I mean, you definitely should have Morello if you're in a position like this. So yeah, we get the Nico now, so we can play 5 KDA without the Akali, with just playing the Nico, which is really nice. And then we can potentially look at like a level 8 5 Spellweaver, which would be really, really nice. We sold our Gragas, so we can't do that. But, you know, I mean, best case scenario, it's going to be a Sona that's just going to cap our board really high. Probably a damage Sona that can just one-shot everything. Now, the one thing that is kind of scary is we're fighting this Ribbon board here. They're actually 1 off Ribbon 3. This can be a scary matchup until you hit something like an RE2, because your RE is really your only way of killing this Riven. It's really, really hard for Seraphine to actually like do enough damage to kill this Riven. He's actually going to pivot into 7 KDA here with the Kai'Sa, which like really, really smart here. Doesn't need the Lulu, doesn't need to play for that vertical Spellweaver. He can just play for 7 KDA. It's a really, really big spike. And also, notice the 4-3 level. I think this is something that I've seen Appies do a decent bit, is when you're in a spot like this, when you're super, super rich, and when the level is really crucial, you just level off tempo in a spot like this. And so, like, we've wasted 2 gold, basically, to level to 8, but it spiked our board immensely. And, I mean, we're only losing 2 gold as well from like, losing the interest. So it's not even, like, a big loss by any means. Okay, I'm curious now if he wants to go for the Spark. I mean, I assume so, and it gets left last on Carousel. So yeah, he does end up going for the Spark here. I like that, just because, I don't know. I feel so afraid when I play comps like this and I have no Shred. But yeah, he's going to go for the Spark. Okay, so we're in an amazing spot, level 8. I mean, we're just going fast 9 off of this Seraphine and then capping on our board high. I wonder what our 9 is going to be. I mean, you could go get back into that sort of like 5 Spellweaver, play like 5 Spellweaver plus Alawi, do like Gragas plus Sona plus Alawi as your level 9 board. That's something I see a lot of people do when they're playing around stuff like this. 7 KDA is a big spike though, so you could just sit on the 7 KDA for a long time. I mean, you could even just level for the Alawi and not worry about getting like Bruiser and 5 Spellweaver in, though I like Spellweaver a lot, so curious to see how he ends up capping out this board. Other thing I like about our spot is our augments are amazing, right? These items spread out with the 2 Cybernetics is really good, and then the army building was really efficient. Gave us a Seraphine 3 really, really quickly. You know, theoretically we lost a little bit of value because we're using it on a 3 cost or a 2 cost instead of a 3 cost, but still very, very good. But yeah, here are the scary fights. We fight this Yone board here. It managed to get to our backline and just tears through everything, right? The Seraphine can do nothing versus this Yone. The only nice thing is that she spreads healing reduction really, really nicely. So it's nice when you're against the Yone to have that healing reduction. So that's something that that the Seraphine does for you, but you really need to hit like an RE2 and have a decent frontline so you can buy time for the RE to actually kill stuff. Wow, hopefully this is Nasher's RE. Sadly, there's no Nashers here. So I wonder what you go for here. You could, he's just gonna go for the GS, which is just like a decent item. And he's gonna make it on the Akali actually over the 3rd RE item. He says, GS on RE doesn't do too much. I'm just gonna make it on Akali. I'm gonna spread my my silver uplink value and look for potentially a better item onto RE. Like definitely like something that would help her cast more would be better than this GS. Something like a Nasher's Tooth would obviously be best case scenario. But yeah, I think it makes sense. And you know, allows us to greed a little bit longer. This is a spot where you are sort of allowed to greed. We're 61 HP here, we're 50 gold, level 8. Like, you don't have to play for like a low cap board in a spot like this. And yeah, speaking of playing for high cap, he's gonna level here, play the Vex, and it looks like he might not even roll here. It's interesting, is the 2nd RE better than the Vex? I would think the Vex is better. But it's pretty close, and you see like Appies is going sort of back and forth on that. The CC from the Vex is so nice, but obviously 2nd RE would also be CC. But yeah, as you can see, still with no RE2, this Riven just tears through our board, and we also just need some like better frontline. We need to. It's really awkward this KDA hex positioning to like stop the Riven from just walking straight to our backline. And as you can see, he even like ends up moving some of his backline units so that we don't give the Riven just an easy route to like cut through all of our backline and get to these units. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if you just give Riven this really easy path to your backline, it feels really bad. Also even moves Ahri to the left here so that potentially maybe later we can have Ahri just cast on you know, like the Riven on the left side. And also in these fights, the main reason is so that we can get the Ahri away from the Akali. But yeah, 48 HP here, very, very healthy. Just looking to cap out the board as high as possible here. KDA Spat allows us to cut one of the worst units. You know, it allows us to cut something like this Kai'Sa for something better. So I imagine that's going to be the pickup here. And the other 2 items don't really do much. Yeah, it's very fortunate we can even get this here. Now we can play KDA. We can still play 7 KDA, but play 5 Spellweaver. He's actually gonna, it looks like he's gonna, I'm curious to see what he ends up valuing higher here, 5 Spellweaver or the, yeah, I assume this is higher value, but he was looking for a second at the Ziggs on his board here. Roll's pretty deep here, just looking for something like an Akali too, and yeah, he's gonna end up selling the Ziggs here. I mean, Hyperpop is buffed a lot, but 5 Spellweaver is 5 Spellweaver. It's another 1 AP every single time one of your Spellweavers casts. I feel like that's such a big spike. So, end up beating Cottontail here. It's an easy top 4. The question is, how high can we play for with this comp? Can we go first with a Seraphine 3 on our board? I'm I'm hyped to see what ends up actually happening. Because, yeah, the really scary thing is there's this Yone player in this lobby and this Riven player in this lobby. He's going to move the Gragas over, which is going to kind of like bait Yone over to the side. But then once again, he ends up going to her backline. Ari gets a cast off, though. Gets him really, really low. Ugh, I feel like this positioning, once again, was just worst in slot positioning. We had the Yone baited with the Gragas, but then the Akali came up, made the Akali walked up towards the middle here and then ulted back. The Yone walked into the Akali, and then the Akali ulted away, and then the Yone just walked to backline. Like, I feel like that was worst possible positioning and like a little bit unlucky fight RNG, but it's just so difficult with this setup here. There's an Edge of Night, which is an interesting idea here. It looks like he's just gonna go for Hodge on the Akali, I would imagine. Don't really think we want that on the Ari, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, Hodge Akali. I guess the idea behind not going Edge of Night, I don't know, I kind of like Edge of Night Ari a lot in a spot like this, but I think he's just thinking that, like, okay, she's going to drop aggro from the Edge of Night, then Yone's going to walk over, kill the Seraphine, and then just going to walk back and kill the Ari. So it doesn't actually do that much, just buys a little bit of time for the Ari. Are going to win this fight, so it is a top 3, but I'm pretty sure the rest of this top 3 is this Yone player and this Riven player, so we're going to have to figure out, positioning-wise, how we can end up, yeah, it's the Yone and the Riven. How can we end up actually beating this boards? He's finally going to move the Akali up here so that she doesn't like dash back and sort of like grief our positioning. He's also going to move this Echo over. Echo in front of the Riven is really, really nice because if he gets a cast off, stuns the Riven, buys us a ton of time. He's going to get a second cast off, and then Ari's going to cast on the Riven. Now, this is like the opposite. This is perfect positioning versus this player. Going to absolutely destroy them. The double Echo cast onto that Riven into the Ari casting, there was just nothing they could do. If you can get this Echo on top of this Yone or this Riven, it helps so much. And as you can see here, he's really, really considering moving this Echo over to stun the Yone. He's not going to do it here, but because he no longer has the Akali, the Yone is going to go through the Gragas and then probably, yeah, aggro back to the front line, and then it goes onto the Echo. Really, really nice. Can Arya wrap this fight up, though? She can't. It's going to be a loss down of 24 HP. That was good positioning, but just barely not enough here. Item-wise, there is an Adaptacone for Ari. There's a QSS for Ari as well, just to get our casting more. I like both of those. He's going to go Archangels, actually, just give the Ari a bit more damage, and just pick up an Alawi, which I don't think we can fit on this board. I don't think we can really fit any of this stuff. We're going to fight the Riven player again, who looked like a slightly easier matchup for us, honestly. They do have CC reduction onto their Riven and the Indomitable Will, but it just, I don't know, I feel like the Riven is just so much less bursty. Like, she has to slowly get through everything, and yeah, the Ari can just get through the Riven. This was clone, though, so it's not a top 4, or it's not a top 2 just yet. The Riven player could theoretically win, and survive, but it's looking pretty promising. Also notice there's a Lulu positioning here next to the Ari and the Seraphine, who always give hyperpop value to both of them, which is really, really valuable. Yeah, I like this positioning a good bit, where he moves stuff back. We're going to fight the Riven player again. We have the Echo on the Riven again, and she hasn't got a takedown yet, though she does get to backline. But we have Ari casting on her, and she goes to the left when she decides to kill the Seraphine, so it is going to be a dub for us there. 12 HP, minus 12 HP on Nick here. We get a Sona here, but especially after the nerfs to Sona and the buffs to Hyperpop, I don't really think Sona 1 is better than this Lulu 2. If we get to Sona 2, of course, we'll play it. It'd be interesting to see what he chooses as the Sona like type here. He's looking at potentially, okay, he's just gonna go the Shojin here to make Lulu cast faster. I mean, really, really solid item here. But yeah, you can just roll down, potentially pick up a Sona 2 here, ideally. And if you don't pick it up, then, you know, that's life. Gonna move the Lulu back, and move the Echo to the middle here to try to call out the Yone. Yone aggro's onto this Gragas here. I don't know if Echo got a cast off there, but Ari ends up casting onto the Yone. Really, really nice the way the fight RNG worked there, where the Ari killed the right side and then aggroed onto the Yone. And also really, really nice that we're so healthy, right? 24 HP means that if we lose this fight, we don't die, but if we win this fight, we do win. Yorick 2 from the Yone player is actually really scary, and he's looking at potentially swapping the Ari to the middle here. Wow, look at this. The Echo in front of the Yone, the Ari swapped to the middle here so that she can kill this Mordekaiser and then aggro onto the Yone. Sadly, it's not enough to win that fight, so we got one more fight here. Finds Alawi, but it's not really enough here, so he's just gonna roll down here. And I saw the end of this game. You will not believe what Appies does in his positioning here in the final fight. You will not believe it. He goes for the frontline Seraphine tech and then moves his backline over so his backline is more clumped so that there's nothing that can get easy access to his backline. Also, this means Seraphine gets a super, super early cast off. And look at this, the early cast on Seraphine, the Ari alive ends up winning him the fight. Like, was that not so sick there to win him the game? I don't know. I thought that and like I'll just go back to that positioning so that you guys can see the final positioning right as the fight started. Like, look how cool this positioning is. The Seraphine up here not dying immediately. She ults on this big clump here. All of your front lines walking up, so it's really hard for the Yone to like wrap on backline. It's, I don't know. This was a really beautiful positioning swap at the end that I absolutely adored, that ended up winning him the fight. And that's TFT, right? You definitely high rolled the early game, but like this swap here absolutely ends up winning him the fight. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, check out my Twitch and all my other links down below. Thank you.